Hello, my lovely friends. My name is Ava, and here are some cowboy romances. I know cowboy romances are very popular, have been for a few years now, so I finally read 10 that I can recommend to y'all today. So let's get started. The quintessential one that I feel like a lot of people have read, if you have read a cowboy romance, you have to have read Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. This one became very popular right when it came out, and it got picked up by a publisher. It's traditionally published now, but this one is about our heroine who is a barrel racer, I think, and she gets thrown off of her horse and she's scared to get back in the saddle. So she goes back to her small town, to her family's ranch, and she bumps into our hero who helps her become more confident to getting back on the horse, and they end up falling for each other. It's a simple, short, contemporary romance, but it has great cowboy vibes for sure. If you've read Done and Dusted and you want a book similar to that, I recommend Rein Me In by Kayla Gross. It gave me the same exact vibes. Our heroine is, I believe, also a professional barrel racer, and she ends up going back to her small town because her mom was recently injured, and I think she broke her leg and she's not able to do chores around the ranch, so she decides to come visit and help take care of some stuff while her mom isn't feeling well. One of her first nights back, her dad convinces her hey, why don't you come to this country western bar with me in town and come have some fun with me? And she's like, oh, okay. And there she bumps into Gavin. Gavin was her brother's best friend. Her brother passed a few years ago. Her brother passing is the reason why she left all those years ago. It is very hard for her to be back in this town. Gavin was her younger brother's best friend growing up, and he is one of the servers at the country western bar, and he kind of peer pressures her to ride the mechanical bull that's at the bar. What he doesn't know is she has some trauma on the back of a horse ever since her brother died. She's just not having it. She is so mad at him after that, and he is gonna grovel his booty off. But this one is a good read. So if you like Done and Dusted and you want a book to give you similar vibes, I recommend this one. And then there is a second book in that series that I've read. I also know Done and Dusted has more books in the series, by the way, but I haven't read those. Just letting you know. So if you want more books, there's a whole series. But I have read Wrote Me In, which is the second book to Rein Me In. The hero in that book is Gavin from book number 1's younger brother, and he also works at that country western bar, and our heroine is a new hire there, a new bartender. She actually comes from an interesting past. She is a professional fiddler, so a fiddle player, and she wanted to escape that popular lifestyle, so she moves to the small town, and she's dealing with a lot of anxiety. Her ex-boyfriend was not the greatest to her, and she has some residual effects from how he treated her, and the hero kind of helps her gain her confidence back after what she's experienced, but then also the heroine helps him deal with some issues he's been going through because he was previously an alcoholic and kind of used sex to escape life when he doesn't want to use women in that way anymore. So yeah, they both help each other in this instance. So it's a deeply emotional but also fun cowboy romance. I also have these two books in the Chestnut Spring series. I think book number 4 is also considered a cowboy romance, but I haven't read that one yet. That's my next one to read. But definitely book number 1, Flawless, and book number 2, Heartless, are cowboy romances, rancher cowboy romances. Flawless, our hero Brett is a professional bull rider. Summer gets hired to be his PR babysitter because he's not doing great with the media right now. He said some things he shouldn't have, and people are kind of hating on him. So she's there to live with him on his ranch with his family to keep him in check, make sure he's not getting with any women, say anything bad to the media. And through this forced proximity situation, they end up falling in love with each other, obviously. And these brothers, do they have mouths on them? I will say that. The dirty talking in here. I want them. I'm just saying that. So book number 2 is about Rhett's older brother. He's a single dad, and Willa is Summer's best friend who gets hired to be his nanny for his young son. They live on this ranch, the same ranch that this one takes place in, and they don't really get off on the right foot because he's very attracted to the nanny, and he's like, I should not be. So it's Grumpy Sunshine. She's a big ball of sunshine, and I love her relationship with Cade's son, but he spends a lot of his time out on the ranch taking care of the horses and the land. So yeah, these are 2 cowboy romances, rancher romances you should pick up, and I think also book number 4 is as well. Then I have The Truth About Cowboys by Lisa Renee Jones. I think this is one of the first cowboy romances I ever read. I read this one years ago. So our heroine is, I think, a writer, and she decides to rent a cabin on this ranch, I think in Texas. She's driving there in the middle of the night, and her car gets stuck on the side of the road, and our hero ends up helping her, and he's not the nicest. And she's like, great, well, I'll never have to see him again, so it's fine. But then she ends up realizing oh, the ranch that she's staying on, where the cabin is the ranch that he owns, and he had no idea that the cabin was being rented out. His grandmother rented it out. They don't really get off on the right foot, obviously. Turns out he doesn't like people knowing about him or knowing where he lives because he was a professional baseball player and he ended up leaving the sport because of a familial death. I think his dad was getting really sick, left the sport to go take care of his dad, to take care of his family, the ranch. Ever since his dad died, like his grandma's been trying to tell him like, go back to the sport, like you love it, but he feels like he can't anymore. He feels like he missed his shot. So that's all I really want to say. I really enjoyed this one. So if you like sports and cowboys, I recommend this one. Next I have Strong and Steady by Vanessa Vale. Our cowboy is also like an underground fighter or an MMA fighter. I can't remember if it's like underground or not, like if it's legal. I don't know, but he's a fighter. Our heroine Emery ends up walking into Grayson's life, who is the cowboy boxer dude. All bets are off for him. He wasn't really wanting a relationship with anyone, but then he immediately meets Emery and he just becomes this alpha protective man and tries to show her like he's more than just like a small town cowboy. Like there's so much more to him, but she loves him for him. You know what I mean? So this one is on the shorter side. If you're wanting something shorter, I recommend this one. Then I have 2 books by Amy Berry, and these are more on the historical side, like American historical side, Westerns. So I have Kit McBride Gets a Wife and Marrying Off Morgan McBride. If you want closed door Western romances that are really cute, like great cowboy vibes. I really like the cowboy vibes in these. So there's this family, okay, of I think like 3 or 4 brothers in like their 20s, and they have this very young sister who's gonna be like 13. And she is sick of doing all the household chores. She's the only woman in the house, so she has to cook and clean and do all this stuff. She's like, I'm sick of this. So she puts an ad in the newspaper for like both of her brothers to find a wife, and women show up. And that's kind of what both of these books are about. There's like other things going on in both of them. But man, their sister is definitely a meddler, okay? But yeah, both of these men are cowboys. And lastly, I have A Steamy Small Town cowboy romance. This is Tofu Cowboy. This one is by Lola West. Luke is our cowboy hero, and he is in an art class. The new art class has a model posing nude for them, who is Maddie, who is new to town, so she's gonna be their nude model. And the moment that he sees her, he's like, oh my gosh. So it's this cowboy's romance with a nude model in the art class that he's in. I'll leave it at that. I read this one years ago, but I found it very interesting that we have a vegetarian cowboy falling in love with a nude model in this very small town. I loved that dynamic. Anyway, so you have it. Those are 10 cowboy romances. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books or if you plan to. And if you don't feel like commenting anything else, you can leave me a horse, a cowboy emoji, anything cowboy related in the comment section down below. But anyways, thank y'all so much for watching. I will see y'all soon in my next one. Bye y'all.